Good evening. I'm G, your host, Just G. Today I'm going to be reading the 111-page document from the National Council on Disability. So we're going to go here for the full report under PDF. And here we go. So I'm scrolling. Turning Rights into Reality, How Guardianship and Alternatives Impact the Autonomy of People with Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities, from the National Council on Disability. This was written on June 10th, 2019. National Council on Disability, known as NCD for short, 1331 F Street, Northwest, Suite 850, Washington, D.C., 2004. Turning Rights into Reality, How Guardianship and Alternatives Impact the Autonomy of People with Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities. National Council on Disability, June 10, 2019, celebrating 30 years as an independent federal agency. This report is also available in alternative formats. Please visit the National Council on Disability, NCD, website, www.ncd.gov, or contact NCD to request an alternative format using the following information: ncd@ncd.gov, email 202-272-2004 for voice, for fax 202-272-2022. The views contained in this report do not necessarily represent those of the administration, as this and all NCD documents are not subject to the A19 executive branch review process. National Council on Disability, an independent federal agency making recommendations to the President and Congress to enhance the quality of life for all Americans with disabilities and their families. Letter of transmittal, June 10, 2019. President Donald J. Trump, The White House, 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, Northwest, Washington, D.C., 20500. Dear Mr. President, the National Council on Disability, NCD, is pleased to submit this report, Turning Rights into Reality, How Guardianship and Alternatives Impact the Autonomy of People with Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities, as a follow-up to a report that was completed last year, Beyond Guardianship, Toward Alternatives that Promote Greater Self-Determination for People with Disabilities, which offers policy research and recommendations for the consideration of your administration and Congress. This report provides a more in-depth examination of the unique challenges faced by individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities, also known as ID and DD, and how the use of alternatives such as supported decision-making may enable some individuals with ID or DD to exercise greater self-determination, participate more fully in their communities, and achieve greater economic self-sufficiency. In this report, NCD examines why people with ID or DD are at increased risk for becoming subject to guardianship as adults, and how that impacts their ability to benefit from civil rights laws aimed at advancing the self-determination and opportunities available to people with ID/DD, including the Americans with Disabilities Act, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, the Developmental Disabilities Act, and the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. The report also examines how people with ID/DD are treated differently than other adults who are the subjects of guardianship proceedings, including in several states that have separate guardianship laws for people with ID or DD. Finally, the report examines the available data on guardianship for people with ID/DD and highlights the stories of people with ID or DD in the nation's capital to increase policymakers' understanding of the impact of guardianship and alternatives to guardianship on the lives of people with ID or DD. We hope that this report will increase the understanding of guardianship and its impact in the lives of people with ID or DD and their families across the administration and in Congress. The report includes recommendations for the Social Security Administration, as well as the U.S. Departments of Education, Justice, and Health and Human Services. NCD stands ready to work with you and your administration to ensure that Americans with ID or DD are provided with viable alternatives to guardianship if they need decision-making assistance, and that the due process excuse me, protections they are afforded when they are faced with a petition for guardianship are robust and will avoid the unnecessary removal of civil rights. Respectfully, Neil Romano, Chairman. Okay, I'm going to stop right here and I'm going to make sure that this is recording before I continue. Okay, thank you for your patience while I took that short break. We left off on page 4 of the NCD publication. And begin reading. The same letter of transmittal was sent to the President pro tempore of the U.S. Senate and the Speaker of the House of Representatives. Page 5. National Council on Disability members and staff. Members: Neil Romano, Chairman; Bendro Oyenpi, Vice Chairperson. And I apologize if I pronounced your name wrong. Billy W. Altman, Rabia Belt, James T. Brett, Daniel M. Gade, Wendy S. Harbour, Bendro T. Oginapia, Clyde Terry. Staff: Phobia Ball, Legislative Affairs Specialist; Stacy S. Brown, Staff Assistant; Joan M. DeRocher, General Counsel and Director of Policy; Lisa Grubb, Executive Director; Neteria Lewis, Administrative Support Specialist; Amy Nichols, Attorney Advisor; Nichols Sabula, Public Affairs Specialist; Amjad Sorman, Attorney Advisor; Ann Summers, Director of Legislative Affairs and Outreach; Anna Torres Davis, Attorney Advisor; Keith Woods, Financial Management Analyst. Page 6 is blank. Page 7, Acknowledgements. The National Council on Disability, NCD for short, wishes to express its appreciation to Quality Trust for Individuals with Disabilities, the Autistic Self-Advocacy Network, and the ARC for working collaboratively with NCD to conduct the research and writing of this report. Page 8, Table of Contents. Executive Summary, page 13. Summary of Methodology, page 13. Executive Summary in Plain English, page 17. List of Acronyms, page 19. Chapter 1, Introduction to ID, DD, Guardianship and Alternatives, page 21. People with Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities, page 21. Guardianship and People with ID, DD, page 23. Alternatives to Guardianship and People with ID, DD, page 25. Chapter 2, School to Guardianship Pipeline for Youth with ID, DD, page 29. The School to Guardianship Phenomenon, page 29. Stories of the School to Guardianship Pipeline, page 32. The Impact of the Pipeline of U.S. Policy Implications, page 33. Chapter 3, Unequal Treatment of People with ID/DD under State Guardianship Law, page 37. ID/DD Specific State Guardianship Laws, page 37. The Impact for ID/DD Guardianship Statutes on People with ID/DD and U.S. Policy, page 39. Chapter 4, U.S. Trends in Guardianship Alternatives and People with ID/DD, page 41. The Guardianship Data Problem, page 41. Review of National NCI Data, page 42. Percentage of people with ID/DD in limited or full guardianship, page 43. Chapter 5, Guardianship and People with ID/DD, a story from the nation's capital, page 47. Introduction, page 47. Why NCD picked DC for an in-depth examination of guardianship, page 48. Key DC legislative and policy reform, page 48. Legislative reforms for adult guardianship proceedings, page 48. DC Wings complaint process and trainings on alternatives to guardianship, page 49. DC special education reforms to promote alternatives to guardianship, page 50. Reforms recognizing supported decision-making across the lifespan, page 51. By the numbers, guardianship and DC residents with ID/DD, page 52. Data collection initiative at the DC probate branch, page 52. Page 9, Table of Contents continued. Data from the DC Department on Disability Services on Guardianship and Alternatives, page 58. Lessons learned from the DC experience, page 60. Lessons for other states, page 61. Beyond DC institutionalization, Donna and Ricardo's story, page 64. A powerful love story, page 64. Journey to great decision-making freedom, page 64. Finances, page 64. Healthcare and domestic life, page 65. Chapter 6. Other stakeholder experiences with the guardianship system and alternatives, page 67. Rights taken, rights restored. Tasha's story from Texas, page 67. In their own words, other lessons learned from stakeholders, page 68. Reasons adults with ID/DD become subject to guardianship, page 68. Perspectives on the impact of guardianship on people with ID/DD, page 70. Perceptions on the impact of alternatives to guardianship on people with ID/DD, page 73. Importance of self-determination for people with ID/DD, page 74. Societal biases impacting the decision-making of people with ID/DD, page 75. The power of communication in all forms for people with ID/DD, page 76. The impact of a lack of opportunity to make decisions on people with ID/DD, page 76. Chapter 7, Findings and Recommendations, page 79. Appendix A, Analysis of ID/DD Specific Guardianship Conservatorship Statutory Provisions, page 85. Appendix B, Table of Analysis of NCI Data for States and Guardianship for People with ID/DD, page 95. Appendix C, Additional Tables of Analysis of NCI Data for Guardianship and People with ID/DD, page 99. Table 1, Age and Guardianship Status, page 99. Table 2, Gender and Guardianship Status, page 99. Table 3, Race, Ethnicity, and Guardianship Status, page 100. Table 5, Type of Residence and Guardianship Status, page 100. Endnotes, page 103. Page 10 is blank. Page 11 begins the glossary.